What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Fish Hunter Outdoors. And today, well, weather's a little bit gloomier, but hey, we still got spring on the mind over here. And once again, it's going to be another tackle talk video for you. Today, we're going to really try dial in one technique that's one of my favorites in the springtime, and really any time of the year. I'm always having this rod ready in the boat. If it's not my number one bait, it's my number two bait. And that's because you can really do anything with it, any part of the country, any time of the year. We're going to focus in on the springtime, show you some baits, show you some rigging, and really kind of show you how you can utilize this bait in the springtime and why you need to. Because I'm telling you guys, you watch this video, you're going to go catch more fish this spring. So stay tuned and let's get into it. All right. So the first thing I'm going to get into here is I'm going to get into the setup, because I think obviously the first thing you're going to need to do when you're looking to fish this technique is have the right setup in the boat. Maybe you can't afford the best of something, but at least try to get something that's the right action, the right power, and a good reel on there too. And I'll kind of tell you what that is here, but I just want you guys to know you don't have to spend all the money in the world to be the best angler on the water. Spend what you can afford, get the right things you're looking for in a rod and reel, and you'll catch just as many fish, or darn near, as anyone out there with really expensive stuff. And I'll just tell you kind of what's most important to look for here, and what you want to spend price range off that is kind of up to you. And here's a good option, I guess, if you're looking to spend a little bit more money. I'll show you what I have, and it's actually my favorite rod and reel that I own. So right here is a Daiwa Tatula Elite. This right here, 7'3" multi-purpose rod. And I gotta say, guys, I mean, I don't know. I haven't used a better rod in my life as far as bait casters go, and I guess I should mention that what I'm always fishing a Texas rig on is a bait caster. Now, some people, like my dad, you might see in some videos, he fishes his on a spinning rod most of the time, and there's some times that I will too if it's light Texas rigs, but 95% of the time, what I'm talking about here is fishing on a bait caster. And the reason for that is because I'm using heavier line. Typically, where I'm fishing this bait is in and around cover, and that's why I like to have a little bit heavier line on here. So we're running line on here wise 14 to 17 maybe pound fluoro. You could go a little bit lighter, and some people will go a little bit heavier, but 14 or 17 really for me is perfect. 14 is what I always have on, because if I'm not fishing in and around cover, I'm casting way out deep, I'm dragging across rock piles, I'm fishing in open cover, I'm pulling through some weed edges. It's really just a versatile pound line that is very, very strong. I really like the Seaguar fluorocarbon lineup. There's some really, really good stuff in there. Most of the time I'm grabbing that InvizX. I think it's the best bang for buck you can get out there. It's a great line to use. And yeah, guys, 14 to 17 pound line is what you want on. And then this reel on here is also a Daiwa Tatula Elite. I guess all I can say on this is it's my favorite bait casting reel I own as well. The reason I probably like the Texas rig fish so much is because I love this rod. I love this reel. It's just so smooth, so light in the hand. And I don't know, it's incredible. You don't have to spend the money, like I said, but if you can, it's always nice to, because the sensitivity is just, it's unreal on the rod. The reel fits great in your hand. I don't think I've backlashed in years. Casting straight into the wind, you hardly have to touch it with this reel. They have a really, really unique braking system that's awesome in these reels. And honestly, there's not a better setup out there for me than something like this. But for you guys looking to go pick up a rod or use one of the rods you have, I would say a 7-foot to a 7'3" rod is what you really want to use. If you're way out deep and you're dragging a lot, you can go a little bit longer to like a 7.5, a 7.6 some people are using even, but I like a 7.3. For me, I use a bunch of different stuff on this rod, but Texas rigs are always the first thing I'm rigging up on here, because a 7'3" medium medium heavy rod for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say use a medium. I would say always use a medium heavy when you're doing something like this, because when that bait's out there and the way you have it in there on there is that hook is pinned into the bait a little bit. So you got to be able to drive that hook home when you're way out there. So a 7'3" medium heavy fast action rod, could even use an extra fast action rod, but medium heavy power, really trying to crank down when you do get a bite and have a good tip to really work that bait out there. This to me, guys, is the ideal setup, the best rod you could have, and a 7-to-1 or 8-to-1 gear ratio reel to really pick up that line fast will give you the best combo and the best line to use on the water. And I guarantee you'll be set up to catch a lot of fish. Now, if you guys have checked out my first tackle video I put out there, it actually talks about this exact bait I'm going to show you, because I'm going to get into baits here now and kind of what some of my favorites are and why you should be using different baits and when. That video, it went into a little bit of detail on baits, but I'm going to give you guys more detail on this one. So go check that one out if you want to see my top 5 spring baits of the year. But right here on Texas Rig specifically, the one I have rigged up right away because I use all the time, is that 6 cents prawn bait right there. And now I really, really do like this bait just because it's decent on durability. It has really nice appendages on it, get a lot of movement down there when it's free falling. And I really, really like the size on it. I guess what I'm looking for is a bait that's not quite too big, but it's on the bigger end, because I like to get the biggest bites I can out there. And I think a little bit bigger sized beaver style bait is one of my favorites. Another thing people like to use is a craw style bait, but for me, beaver style baits always seem to work the best. If I'm gonna be honest, I guess I think they're a lot better for smallmouth, and for largemouth, it's a little bit more split. But I'm always throwing the beaver. It's just me personally. But I'll give you guys some options as far as craw style baits and beaver style baits here. I guess let's get into beaver style baits right away here. Let me grab a couple out. I'm running low, so I do need to pick up a supply on them, but I guess right here is that packaging on that 6 cents prawn. Really, really like that bait. It's a great bait. Go pick them up. Caught a lot of fish on them. Probably a bait you'll find at your local store here a little bit easier. Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver. Awesome bait. One of the cheapest baits you can buy for a Texas rig that catches a lot of fish. Other than that, some other baits I'd really kind of recommend, I guess, would be a Berkley Max Scent bait. That bait is really, really nice. I haven't used them much. Well, I guess last year I used them a lot, but until then, it was new on the market. I hadn't used it, but last year I crushed a lot of fish on that bait. And that's going to be the top 3 baits I'm always throwing, to be honest with you. The most affordable one's that Sweet Beaver, because, guys, you're going to be going through a lot of these. That's why I am curious to maybe try out a couple of the Z-Man Texas rig baits I've seen on the market. I guess, I don't know, better durability could be nice on a bait like this. So let me know in the comments if you've used any. But those are my top 3 baits I'm grabbing. Now let me show you a couple cross style baits if you want to give that a go. And I guess I'll kind of tell you when a cross style might be a little bit more effective as well. The most popular bait you're going to see is that Strike King Rage Tail. Now, a lot of people throw it. It's got a longer body to it, so there's plenty of room for that hook in there. And they work good. I think maybe if fish are a little bit more aggressive, they can work well because there's just a little bit more kick going on down there. I think if you're dragging across rock piles and you're trying to imitate crayfish, they do work well. I'm still preferring that beaver style bait. The way I think craws could be maybe a little bit better is maybe on beds for largemouth. They kind of look like a predator really trying to kick in there on their beds, I guess. Or if you're trying to imitate bluegills at all, I don't know, a big bluegill lake. I think I've seen some stuff where they like them. They just like that claw down there. I don't know. It almost might imitate a bait fish a little bit more, even though it looks more like a crayfish. But it's just my word. You don't have to take it, I guess. And then if you want to be a little bit more finessey, you could throw something like that mini little Strike King bait there. Something like your Guggen Squad Bandito bug, similar to that beaver style bait I like a lot. The durability on them, if I'm being honest, guys, is not so good, but they're a good bait. Those net baits, they work well as well. Just a lot of options as far as baits go, but pick a few to try out. I mean, you don't have to buy the most expensive one on the market by any means, because they all catch fish. The biggest thing is where you're fishing it. Your setup is most important, that I already talked to you guys about. And then after that, it's going to be when and where you're fishing it, because if you're not in the right areas, you're not going to get bites no matter if you have the right setup or not. So to give you guys a little recap here, we talked about our rod, talked about our baits, and the one last thing I'm going to touch on before I get into when and where is that little weight on there. I like to always have a tungsten weight on them if I can, because that way I know what I'm around. If you're fishing around cover, you can feel if you're on the rocks, you can feel if you're coming across a tree branch, you can feel if you're on a bed. And it's very important to me, I guess, to know where I am on the bottom, because I'm always fishing this bait and trying to just feel down there and know where I am and know when I'm in the strike zone and know what kind of fish or know when I'm going to be getting bites, because to me that's very important. Then after that, I got a hook on here that is a 3/0 worm hawk right there, EWG. I like 4/0s actually. I think you get better hookups on them going a little bit farther down in the bait, having that longer one on there. And all you guys are doing is let me take it all the way out for you here, but you're simply threading that hook through, pop it through there, feed the whole hook through, pull it up, and then try to get as far down on the bait as you can, pop it out, that hook's exposed, and then stuff it a little bit back in there. Boom. Perfectly rigged bait. And now you're fully set up, fully rigged on the water. Now you're probably wondering, where am I going to fish this bait? Well, let me tell you. Now here's the beautiful thing about this bait right here, is when you're in the springtime, those fish can be in a lot of different places. They can be out deep, they can be up shallow, they can be around cover, and they can be in the wide open places just roaming. Well, that's why I'm picking up this bait in the spring, and where you're going to be fishing it, this bait can always be used. When you're going on a new body of water and you're trying to cover a lot of water, reaction baits can be nice to use. But if you kind of have some ideas of points you see out there, humps that you come across with your side imaging, really anywhere that you notice some good defined structure and you really kind of want to work those areas well, pick up a Texas rig. Those areas you are able to work effectively and efficiently with a Texas rig. What you're doing is you're casting that bait out there and you're hopping it along. Lift up, let it fall down on slack, give it a reel, and do it again. That's how everyone's fishing, is that rod tip up high, and that's the most common way to fish it. It's effective. A lot of times you're going to see me out there in the water and I'm fishing a little bit more aggressive, snapping that bait around down there. And that's just personally how I like to fish it. But I emphasize that no matter how you kind of pull that bait and snap that bait along, you really watch that bait and let it fall on slack line, because 95% of your baits or your bites on this bait are going to be on slack line when that bait's falling down to the bottom and they're slurping it up, because that weight's falling ahead of the bait and those fish are slurping up that plastic. Now for me, that's how I get almost every single bite, and something you really got to make sure you're watching is truly letting that bait fall on slack line. So when you're going in there on a new lake in the springtime and you really try pan around, look, whether it's with your forward-facing sonar or it's just with your eyes and you see a lot of cover, this can be a way to search and really kind of pick apart a lake and it's not that slow of a presentation like maybe a drop shot or a Ned rig would be. You can fish it aggressive. You can make it a fast moving bait that you can really work an area well with, but you can also really slow down with it, pick apart each individual piece of cover. And that's why for me, if I just wanted one bait on the water, if I'm going out with my friends in their John boat or wherever else, I'm grabbing this rod and reel, I'm grabbing that bait, and I'm going out there and I know I'm going to catch fish. I know if I switch around my baits, switch around my colors of baits, whether it's stained water, dirty water, anywhere, this is a great technique for that. And another thing I guess I'll mention, since I brought up different color water clarities, for those of you who might not know, in your more clear bodies of water, you're going to want a more realistic color down there. So what I recommend for that is something like your green pumpkins like that. It's a great crayfish imitating, bluegill imitating color is green pumpkin. Really, you can catch fish on dirty water in it as well. But one of the best colors you can use in dirty water is something like this guy right here, a little blue and purple type color. Whatever reason, those blues and those purples and the sun penetration in dirty water, the fish pick up that shadow a lot better, and you catch more fish in dirty water with a dark color bait or maybe a really bright chartreuse bait. But for these style plastics, I would say clean water, your greens, dirty water, your blues, and that's all you really need, and you're going to catch a lot of fish. Whether you're anywhere on the lake, you're going to catch a lot of fish with those colors. Just really kind of when you get to a new body of water, I want you to really try look around, see what you see on the lake, see it through maybe someone else's eyes if you have a buddy with, see what they see, and just try really pick apart a lake with the Texas rig. Try search with it if you have to, cover some shorelines, cover some deep humps, fish it apart with a Texas rig at different techniques, different cadences, different speeds you're working that bait with back. And really, guys, I guarantee you, you're going to catch fish this spring. It's the #1 bait that everyone should always use. No matter where you are in the lake, it's going to get you bites. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is kind of just an overall view of what you should be doing in the springtime, whether it's with a Texas rig or it's with any kind of bait. I guess I'm going to give you a brief kind of point on it because I could make a whole different video on this topic on its own, but in the springtime, right, fish are getting ready to spawn. So when they're still kind of in those early stages here and it's cold outside, those fish are more than likely going to be deeper. They're still kind of moving out of their wintering grounds, and they're maybe moving up on the side of ledges or little offshore areas and getting ready to push up shallow. Maybe they're staging on some deep cover right on the edge of shallow water. And the reason for that is they're going to move up to spawn, right? That's what fish do in the spring. Now, when the water tap warms up and they're around that spawning range, they're going to push up on beds. And the way they do that is a smallmouth more so are going to be on those sandy areas. And they like to bed around trees. They like to bed around rocks. They like to bed sometimes in the wide open sand. And then largemouth, I would say more so are, I don't know, it depends on the water quality, right? But sometimes you'll see them up there really, really shallow in some of those dirtier lakes, and you can catch them on a half a foot of water in a bed. And there's a lot of places that fish will be on beds. Just look for cover, look for sand flats. Fish love to spawn on that. And off of that, think in reverse. Think, where do fish spawn and where are they going to be before they move up there? Where do I find them last fall and where do I think they'll be in the spring? And try to really kind of pick apart in between there from their bedding grounds to their wintering grounds and find cover in between there, find sharp ledges that those fish are staging. And whether it's with this Texas rig or it's with different techniques, that's what you need to be focusing on. And the reason I like this Texas rig right here is because, I mean, it's a great bait to kind of pick apart any different parts of those regions, whether it's the early spring grounds, kind of middle of the springtime, or those bedding grounds. And yeah, I mean, offshore rock piles, throw a heavier weight on there, drag it around, fish it a little slower when it's colder water. You'll get bites if they're moving up, getting aggressive. Lighten up your weight, snap it around a bit more. You're going to get more bites. And on beds, it's deadly effective. If fish are roaming around, getting ready to bed, or they're on beds, it's a time where you could get a giant fish. You catch the biggest fish in the lake. And I don't see a better technique than a Texas rig. So I guess I'm just here, guys, to try help you out, try help you catch more fish on the water. And I really wanted to highlight one of my favorite baits that I think you guys need to be fishing. And yeah, I mean, I'm just here to help you guys. I'm not getting anything out of this other than hopefully helping you guys check out the channel a little bit more. Hopefully hit that subscribe button, guys, because I'm going to try to give you all the tips I have. I mean, I learn every day I'm on the water. I'm going to take you guys with this year all I can in the boat. Me and my dad are going to have some great fishing trips planned. And hopefully you guys can really just, I mean, check out the channel more. Watch all the videos you can. Go back and watch some of our previous tackle videos, some last year's videos. If you like hunting videos, we got a bunch of those too. I mean, chasing ducks, chasing bass all year is what we're going to be after. And I really do thank you guys for tuning in. We put a lot of work into this channel, and thank you again for tuning in. If you want to see anything in particular, please comment down below. I'll answer you right away. I'll try and make the best video I can on it. Message me if you can on Instagram. Go check out that page. And I'm just here to help, guys. I'm going to bring you all the tips I can. So thanks for tuning in, and see you on the next one.